Hey guys, I'm here with Vermilia. Vermilia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so basically I'm almost 20 and I don't know about my type. I'm pretty certain I might be a gamma. And I think in Boltology I was typed as an SE lead, but then in other communities I've been typed something else. So I'm honestly not sure. But yeah, that's the only thing I can say. I really don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of figured that you were pretty young because you just said that you were doing exams right before the interview. But I've kind of said this before in like different videos, and I think it's just a known thing. I would say where you are age-wise, so between the ages of like 17 to 19 years old, maybe even to your into your early 20s, that is like kind of a difficult time to type yourself because you're really starting to use your creative function and socionics. So, like, whatever that second function would be for you if you're thinking in Myers-Briggs terms. And it's just, it's not really a bad thing, but it just means that you're really growing during this time and you're really kind of getting into your own. And it's just kind of a challenging time to type yourself. So, I think it will be interesting. I know we were talking about how, like, maybe we would even come to the determination about your type. Maybe in the title it will
Yeah.
say a type that we think you are. That's the thing. But if not, it probably will say something like type me because I know there are so many people, which is really cool, that will be watching this video that have like years of typology experience. And I know even if we didn't ask for them to give their opinions, they're going to give their opinions. So I'm going to start off with my infamous question, which is how would you describe yourself as a child?
Oh, so I knew this was coming. So uh, yeah, so I have pretty bad memories, so I don't have a lot of like I don't know what my childhood was. Well, I do know some things, like some basic stuff, but like I don't know, it's just such a distant memory. So I asked my mom like a few hours ago, and yeah, she just gave me like a bunch of stuff. So I'm just gonna go read it out.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it.
So probably not high SI.
No, I doubt it.
Okay, go on.
Where is it? Yeah, so first one was I like playing alone, which I guess, yeah, makes sense. Second one, I didn't really like big groups. Like at max, I really enjoyed being with like one or two people, but like beyond that, like I didn't like it as a kid. I'm talking between the ages of 0 and 7. So she also said I was pretty closed, as in like I didn't like being around like kids that were like 1 year younger than me or 1 year older. Like I don't know why, just didn't like them for some reason. Maybe I thought of them as different than me, which I don't know. We were just kids, but whatever. Um, Also, she told me I really got obsessed with one thing at a time. Like I don't know, I would get obsessed over a show or a series or whatever, and I don't know, I would just like stick to it. um, yeah, I also got told that I was creative, but honestly, like that's what all mothers say about their kids, so I wouldn't take that as 100%. Well, I'd like to think so, but I don't know, whatever. I also got really easily distracted, like at school or whatever, and like I got lost like a few times. Like I remember, like I don't know, I remember like being at a beach and being lost for 3 hours. But I remember at the time I didn't really give a shit. Like it was just like I'm just having fun, you know. But apparently my parents were really worried. So yeah. Um yeah, I would also lose a lot of stuff very easily. So like a textbook or whatever for school, I would just lose it somehow, you know, somewhere along it. So I don't know, that was an issue for my mom. Yeah, she also told me I didn't smile a lot, which I think it's weird. I mean, you have to realize that my mother is an FE lead, so maybe there's like some bias to it. But I don't know, she was worried about that. Like for the first, like, I don't know, 4 years of my life, I was just like barely ever like smiled. So I even got sent to a psychologist or something, but it was just fine, like not a big deal. So yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so when do you feel like you kind of like remembered things?
Maybe 10.
Okay,
10.
so
Yeah.
what would you, okay, so you kind of um forgot about like maybe your early childhood, which I actually think is kind of common. Like I think actually a good amount of people um that is like a common thing.
I mean, well,
And
I
oh, go
do
ahead.
know a bit. Like I do, like I remember stuff, of course, but I just felt like if I told what I thought of my childhood, I'd be like a bit more biased, you know? So I think it's more, my mom's more of a reliable source or whatever. So
That's interesting. Okay. I'm already getting different things, but I'm not gonna say. Okay.
okay.
So okay, after the age of 10, how would you describe yourself? Like, I guess up until right now.
God, okay, I didn't actually thought this out. Well, okay, so from 10 to 14, that's the thing. I had a lot of friends. I do remember that. Um, it's just that I was like sort of like a bit like I was a very disagreeable kid, like somewhat, you know. So I did get into a lot of fights. I do remember that. In fact, because like it was funny because like a lot of people like I was just generally pretty bad at like talking smack to others, you know. So I would constantly get roasted. So I do remember that, but like the thing is, I just like my response every time that happened was just like me like just fighting them or whatever because I didn't I never knew how to answer, you know, to the talkbacks. So yeah, I got into a lot of fights, and I think when you're 10, like you can see a lot of like a big difference between people's heights. So I'm pretty tall. So at that age, I was like way taller than everyone. So I was like, I guess I was sort of intimidating to some kids. And I don't know, yeah, I think I had generally, I was I performed very poorly at socializing, even though I did have a lot of friends, which they're still my friends, you know, after like 15 years. So yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Um, so what would you say your biggest interests are?
I would say history is my favorite, what I'm most interested at, but I guess also typology, because you could say sociology in general is just like stuff I like, and that fits history, philosophy, and basically everything that relates to human beings is something that I like. And yeah,
What you said that your mom is an FE lead. What is her personality?
I'm, I think she's a FESI, so she'd be an ESFJ.
Okay. What is your relationship like with her?
I don't know. Let me think. So yeah, so I think we get along like generally well. Um, I remember like as a kid, I was difficult, you know, for a mother because I was always like, I don't know, I would always like unless I got like I don't know, I was just bad, you know, overall, and I was like difficult to handle. So I don't think she liked me a lot, but I think as I grew up, like she started to like me more and more, and I think we get along fine like today. So yeah.
That's very interesting. So kind of going back to your childhood, um, how would you kind of describe that, like, I know that you said that you can kind of remember what you were like, but it's not, you said that it wouldn't be as uh kind of
Reliable.
concrete, yeah, reliable or concrete as your mom. What would you describe, like, I've heard other people say this about that kind of up until the age of 10 or 11, where it just felt like they were unconscious. Is that something that you resonate with?
I guess, yeah.
That's interesting. You are sounding very similar to my sister, I will say this. And it's interesting about my sister because I don't know. Um, she had a very similar childhood to you, like kind of a little bit. She was always perceived as like kind of the problem child in a way. Like she also didn't smile, like in her in her old photos of her, like between like again kind of a similar age. She always had like this face like this, like she wanted to
Yeah.
kill you. And she would go to the principal's office all the time, and like she would get into like little fights with people as well. So I'm not saying that you guys are the same type, but she had a very, your childhoods are very like very, very similar, even though obviously like I was raised by the same parents, but I had a different, like,
Yeah.
it's interesting. So I don't know if there's a correlation there, but we'll see. So when you had someone like talk to you about socionics, why do you think they typed you as gamma? Or why do you think you feel like you're gamma?
Okay, so I mean, it's not that I feel more well. I mean, it was sort of a process. Like the first part was just like discarding other quadrants or whatever. And it just seemed to me like that in the judging like axis or whatever you want to call it, it felt more TEFI than anything. Like I don't think anyone would recognize me as an TIFE. I might be wrong. I might be totally wrong, but it's just like FE for me at least. It doesn't seem to be a function that I get along particularly well. So I just I just can't see myself to it. And even though I would like to be perceived as a TI, I know I'm not that. It'd be very difficult for me to be convinced by that. And I guess FI and TI, I know they're not exactly the same, but they have some similarities. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I was pretty certain I was either a gamma or a delta, and just through like eliminating, like through method of elimination. I don't know how it's in English. and I we just came up with gamma because it seemed to me like delta was difficult because I couldn't really relate to SI and neither NE. So yeah, that's it.
Interesting. Um, yeah, I also just kind of speaking with you, I kind of do think that you probably, I mean, I don't want to say for sure, but I definitely feel pretty certain that you are on like the FITE spectrum. But which personality type in the Delta Quadra did you feel like you were most similar to?
Probably ISTJ, but I wouldn't know, honestly.
Okay, that's kind of, if I was to type you in the Delta Quadra, that's what I would type you as. That's what I think my sister is, by the way. Um, and what's interesting, for the longest time, I thought my sister was an ISFP and like the Gamma Quadra she, because a lot of what we think of SI is not really like, for example, it was really interesting because for the longest time I thought, and I'm not trying to just type you by like
Yeah.
what my sister is, but it's something that I went on this process for a long time. But already I think it's interesting that people typed you as like a SE lead. Why do you think
Yeah.
they typed you as an SE lead?
Okay, so do you know what Bultology is?
Okay. I don't like it. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
like- What did they say about you?
Okay, so there's a thing that are called oscillation. I think you know about this probably. Yeah, so instead of like typing like instead of it being more behavioral, or if anything, it's more of a, like a it's more like you get tied by the gestures and your like whatever things you do, oscillations, and like in accordance to that, depending on how many signals you display, your lead function is going to be that, you know. So it's showed in my report or whatever that like I showed a lot of PE signs, which PE stands for like extroverted perception, so basically NESE. And then this second function that displayed more signals was JI, which is introverted judging, so either FI or TI. And out of the PEJI, it would be ESFP
Okay.
because of some weird reasons that, like, I don't know a lot about typology, but there's some people that know. Yeah, whatever.
Who typed you, by the way?
You know, court jester.
Queen Gambit.
Yeah, Queen Gambit as
Okay.
well.
Okay, so that is very interesting. I have spoken with him as well, and he I actually broke it down with him directly, like as in I spoke with him about like the functions. So the thing about his like typology system that you have to just be, and he doesn't say this in his videos, and but he tries to pass it off as like MBTI or like socionics. He uses socionics terms and MBTI terms, but his typology system is something, I mean, not like that, but like I do think there is something to be said about it, but it's all something that it's a system that he made up. So it
Yeah,
doesn't really correlate with socionics. It's basically using the same, some of the things like PI, JI, stuff like that, JE, that kind of stuff, like, yeah, that's using different terms or different like function, like, but he uses the same, like he tries to say FE, but he uses a completely different definition. So I really wouldn't go off of, if you're trying to find what your type is in Socionics or Myers-Briggs, I would not use his system as like
oh
as a
no,
place to learn.
I don't.
Okay, good.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's not,
because
but I mean
that's
it's accurate in the sense that, like, yes, these signals display this, but I fail to see the correlation between the functions, behaviorally speaking, with the signals that display. So there's definitely something to it, but I don't know if it's MBTI.
well, and what I've said is that he needs to use completely different, like, because the functions are already defined as certain things, and whether like what he's finding is more like makes more sense for like perceiving, like what the word perceiving means, than like what socionics and Myers-Briggs uses. That is, I mean, I understand that, but it's, the thing about it is there's already definitions for like what those functions are. So if you try to use like a completely different definition for a function, it's just going to confuse people. So I was also typed as a gamma by him. I was typed as an INTJ, and I'm not. And again, you shouldn't, the thing that I have an issue with that kind of typing is the hand gesture stuff, because, or like even just movements that you do, because a lot of that is behavioral. Like some of that stuff is not like, it might be in the subconscious because people have done it so often, but that isn't something that like is necessarily natural for people. Like those are kind of learned behaviors. So for me, I don't think that that's a really great way to try to type people. There definitely is maybe a certain correlation and pattern, and I think what he's doing is interesting. But when you use like completely different definitions for terms that people know, and then you try to like, he should just pass it off as a different system and not use like the quadra system in socionics, because it just confuses people.
Mhm.
So that being said, I do still think that you are probably on the TEFI axis, but that's interesting that that's kind of where you got. Have you talked to anybody that like was in socionics apart from him? Because he said that
Oh
he
man.
studied socionics, but he doesn't like socionics, and he doesn't really use any of the things that socionics teaches apart
Yeah,
from the
I
quadras.
don't honestly I have zero clue about about socionics. I've read Carl Jung books, Psychological Types, and the descriptions of the functions are there. So that's what I base my definitions on. So
Okay.
I guess you could say I'm more of a traditionalist, Jungian instead of like socionics.
Okay.
I know the very basic stuff, but I could never type myself with that system because I have zero clue.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, as far as like Queen's Gambit's system, I wouldn't be able to like, that's not a system that I don't think anybody really knows except for him, like completely. And that's something that he like does on his own. I mean, I know there are people that are like learning his system, but that is not like, I mean, I would say only a few hundred people know that system. And
Yeah,
like
there's like 20, and like I'm part of that 20, so it's more like 19.
yeah, you're on his Discord. So I was actually, I think you probably saw, then you might have seen me on the Discord. So I was thrown into his Discord. Um, and I didn't know that that was like his typing system. I thought he was actually like into socionics and like Myers-Briggs. And when I was thrown into the Discord, there was like a ton of people like attacking me for like saying that I didn't think I was
Really,
gamma. Yeah.
I didn't see you in the Discord,
Oh,
but
I was
no.
only in there for a day because it was horrible. Not like obviously everybody, but like, and there was some nice people, but it was like, I mean, I didn't know, and I really didn't know his system before that. Like I had just been typed by him. I didn't even watch his videos. And so when I went into that Discord, I had no idea. And then and then I like
Yeah,
actually did talk to him, and I talked to some of the members, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's not even correlated at all, really." I was like, "Okay, well, of course I'm not going to know that system." If you're going by completely different definitions. But yeah, so that is really interesting. But as far as like socionics and Myers-Briggs, I can definitely help you there. And I think more people would be able to kind of figure that out. So what is something about like, and maybe you don't know, but like from what you do know about like extroverted feeling, what do you not like kind of agree with or like get along with that?
okay, so I'd say so FE lead. So seems to me like FE lead is fuck, how do I even explain this? So it's sort of like it's sort of a collectivist function in the sense that like it aims to like sort of unify a peoples or whatever you want to call it, and a sort of like a sense of community grows out of that in a way. And well, it really depends if you're depending if you're beta or alpha, it's gonna manifest differently. But it's sort of like this like like it's sort of like this is us against them sort of behavior that I don't really like. But and I don't feel myself like that at all. So I go to parties and I have fun, especially when I'm but like sometimes I just disconnect myself from the group like just for a while, and I feel like I don't know, it feels like somewhat of an imposter in a sense, you know, like what am I doing here? You know, like I don't belong here. But yeah, I don't know.
That's so okay. So you're kind of using Queen's Gambit's definition for FE. So like the structure definition.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Oh no, 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 no. Okay, sorry. I just want to like slam my head on the because that's not FE.
Okay, you
Um,
explain it.
okay, so FE is all about like I mean you very well may not like FE either, like this way too, but FE is about creating harmony. So that's like the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah.
thing. And it's
I
not
would
about building a structure. It's not about that. It's very inclusive. And I would say what I would say about FE is, and you still may, like, for example, my sister, she finds FE to be like, she's an ISTJ or like an SLI in socionics. And she finds she finds FE to be kind of like repulsive, and you very well may feel the same way, especially if you are like something similar to her. But so the thing about FE, it's all about building like having harmony in a group, but or just like in general. So like when you are in a group of people that either lead with FE or value FE, you're not necessarily, I don't think there's like necessarily an ostracizing that happens, but sometimes maybe that could be the case. The thing is, those people, they actually are feeling the feelings of other people in the room. So like, if you want to think about it this way, like if I had like, okay, let's pretend this is a person, this is a person, this is a person. And like this person is sad, this person's happy, this person's upset, this person's happy, this person is like just different emotions. The person that has like or values FE, especially if it's in their first or creative function, they're going to want to have the room be somewhat similar structure. I mean, not structurally, but like emotionally. So
Yeah.
it's about like FE doesn't really like when things are kind of out of balance when it comes to emotions. So they want the kind of a similar emotional tone. Um, and it's definitely for people that do not value FE, it can be seen as, I would say the biggest thing that kind of divides a lot of like FE versus FI users. FE is kind of perceived as fake, like this kind of fakeness, and FI is perceived as selfish. And that is primarily by people that lead with either of those functions, but even people that don't necessarily lead with us with FI. So for example, like an ILI, which is like an INTJ, or an SLI, which is an ISTJ. Both of those people can be seen as fairly selfish people, even though they do not lead with FI, but they do value FI. And then someone like an ESFJ or an ENFJ, they may be seen as fake because they value that social harmony when it comes to like speaking with people and trying to connect with people. But I would say if you were to walk into a party with someone that does value FE, they would not try to, what they would try to do is bring everyone together. They wouldn't try to separate people or like make someone feel like excluded.
Yeah.
Um, and that is especially with people that like lead with FE, and then someone that has it as their creative function in a structural, like they would want to include people, but they're not going to necessarily like make people come together. They're going to like kind of still, like for example, an INFJ and Myers-Briggs is going to want kind of this harmonic atmosphere, but they kind of value more of the individuality of everything. And so they will have like more segmented groups and kind of be okay with that.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, I think I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then TI is kind of obviously the opposite. So that, well, it's not the opposite necessarily, but it's the opposite of FE. And TI is all about, like, if I say that this is a candle, so this would be a very like TE thing. Like it's a candle, you light it up, or like you can light it up here. It has a light bulb. It's lit because of a battery. Whereas like a TI user would be wanting to know what makes up the candle, like how to take it apart. What is actually the structure of
Yeah,
this
the
candle rather
mechanics
than,
behind it.
yeah. I would say TI and TE are a lot more structural than FE and FI.
Definitely, yeah.
Um, and so I I don't want to like completely discount what Queen's Gambit is doing, but it's just not like a good, if you're trying to understand. I would probably say that his typing system is somewhat, there's something there, but not even him. And I think he's like pretty obvious about like not I think he's kind of said this, or at least he said to me that his typing system is still a work in progress, and he's had many moments where he's like thrown things out and like
Yeah,
said,
that's
oh
true.
well, that's not, yeah.
Yeah, I've
So
seen that happen.
it's not a very reliable typing system right now.
Oh no,
Um,
not at all. It's just
so
it's just
yeah.
people, whatever people tell me, I think about it. I don't know. At the time, it was like I think I sort of like already thought of myself as a gamma before all of this, because people have called me selfish before, but it's like whatever, I don't care. But and I I've seen a lot of I don't know, perceiving any people or SI or whatever, and I think there's a difference. You might, hey, I might be wrong about this. Your typing might come out as different, but I understand there's different typing systems, and depending on the site typing system, I'm gonna be something entirely different. But yeah, so I don't know a lot about like the socionics, so I might just come out as like, I don't know, the total opposite of ESFP. So
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that, but I wouldn't, I mean, I'm not going to like say 100%, but I wouldn't necessarily think you were an ESFP. Like, um, first of all, I guess, I don't know. This does sound kind of like whatever, but I wouldn't necessarily even say that Queen's Gambit should even be seen as a typing system yet, because it's just not even a good way of like, it doesn't seem like anybody is, I don't know.
yeah, I get it.
And especially, I think until he changes the terms, so, and I don't think he's going to do this necessarily, but like the whole quadra thing, I think if there's something, I don't really understand why he uses the socionic structures without using the same like terminology. It just doesn't, it's just very confusing, because what you think is gamma is not necessarily gamma,
Right.
because gamma is something, the beta, alpha, beta, gamma, delta is something that only Socionics uses and his typing system.
Well, it seems like a lot of people are using it now besides socionics, but of course, it originated from socionics. But I don't know. I've heard Dave Superpowers is now also using quadras. I've heard even CS Joseph uses quadras, though he keeps like different names to them. So it's like, well, I don't remember the names,
Yeah, I
but
think having different names is like one thing, but if you use like the same names, it's just very confusing, because that is a Socionics concept.
yeah,
If that makes sense. And like the one thing I can't say for CS Joseph, because I don't watch his content, but like I know with Dave's superpowers, and again, I'm not really like in that like
me neither.
world either. But like the thing I do value about his thing is that I think he does try to make it something very different, but he does still have a lot of people that think it's MBTI.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas I do think there's a lot more of a correlation between like MBTI and Socionics. It's the biggest thing with Socionics and MBTI is the way the functions are a little bit different, but not really, but it's still the same like thing.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is really, what's it called? So like with introverts, in Myers-Briggs, the way they determine the J and the P, so like perceiving and judging, is by looking at the first extroverted function.
Yeah, I know that.
Whereas in like Socionics, they look at the primary function. So the introverts are gonna all be flipped.
Yeah.
Um,
So like an INTP would be an INTJ, or I don't know, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Or like an ISFJ would be ISFP. Yeah. So that's like the biggest thing, one of the biggest differences. And like even with Myers-Briggs, I think more than anything, Myers-Briggs is kind of like a gateway for a lot of people. I would assume that you probably first heard of Myers-Briggs, or
Yeah, of
what was
course.
your
Yeah.
typology journey?
On what?
What
Oh
was your
yeah. Oh
typology
yeah.
journey?
Okay, so 14, I think, when I started. I of course typed like as an INTJ, and I was like, whatever, you know. I didn't really thought of it much. Then 2 years later, like for some reason, like a lot of like videos start coming up on like my YouTube recommended feed or whatever, and they were related to MBTI, and I was like, oh shit, I remember this. I did the test again, and that time I got INTP. I don't know, I just started looking it up, and yeah, I think first was CS Joseph, and then some other people, and yeah, now I don't really see like a lot of videos anymore. But I did read the book like psychological types last year, and I thought it was interesting, and that's like the full extent of my um yeah, knowledge on MBTI or cognitive functions or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. When did you get into like Jay's thing, or like Queen's Gambit?
Jay's things, I think it was the summer of last year,
Okay.
so I don't know, August 2020, when he was just getting started, basically.
I think that is interesting what he's doing. I just have a little bit of like whiplash with it.
Yeah, I can
But
tell.
like, yeah, it's just like I don't know. When I figured out, because like I don't know, when I figured out that it was completely, not completely different, but like almost like I don't know, like
Yeah,
this is this is
yeah, to
purple, this is purple, this is purple, but no, this is purple, this is purple. It's like, all right, like that kind of thing. It just, that was when I was like, oh no. Okay. But I mean, I do think that what he's doing is very interesting because he is coming at it from a very different angle than a lot of people are.
yeah.
And I think once he does like come into his own, and when he uses his own like system, like actual, if he wants to use a quadra system, like uses his own terms and stuff, and then doesn't kind of market it as like an MBTI or a Socionics, I think that's
Hmm.
when it's really going to take off for people more so. And it's just going to be like that kind of interesting like typology system that, because for the longest time, I think Socionics is still not like a super widely known thing in the US. I think it's becoming more so because of people like myself and other people that like started talking about Socionics like a few years ago on online. I would say particularly like World Socionic Society and stuff. But that's like a system that has been around since, I believe it was in not too long, like the
70s.
1970s, and it started in Lithuania. So
Hmm.
a lot of people in Eastern Europe, they, I would say that the majority of people that know Socionics are going to be people that live in Eastern Europe, and they actually don't really know Myers-Briggs. Like they've never really heard of Myers-Briggs. So it's kind of a
But they
weird,
know about Jung, right?
what do you mean?
They know about Jung, Carl Jung.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they know, like, because so
I don't even like thinking about MBTI either. It's just something that's there that I don't like, but it's there, and I guess it serves the function of like drawing a lot of people and interest to it, but I don't like it either.
I think the thing that I do like about like what Queen's Gambit is doing, and like it sounds like you're kind of, and that is he is trying to come at it from a different approach. And like he's not just doing like the surface level stuff that like MBTI tries to teach. Because I think there's definitely something that's missing from MBTI. It's just it kind of like glorifies certain personalities and then demonizes other personalities. And so it's
Yeah,
very easy to mistype and like, I don't know. But
yeah,
anyways,
the anti-master race. Kind
yeah. Okay, so kind of back to the interview because this is even more interesting in a way because of the fact that it's not even a system that like the people are going to necessarily know. So they're kind of looking at you from fresh eyes. How would you say that you interact with your friends?
It depends on the friend. Like, so I know, I think generally I'm sort of talkative, but it feels to me like the more people I'm talking to, the more quiet I'm gonna be. So that's a thing. Um, hmm. When I talk with my friends, we usually just like, I don't know, we just like arguing like a lot. So that's how we talk. We just argue with each other like constantly. And I guess from some people on the outside, it might seem a bit offensive, but it's just the way we talk. Um, I don't know. I I think we I think we maybe people from the outside might generally perceive us as like rude or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just whatever, just rambling. I don't know. Actually, that's a question you've caught me on that I have no clue. Like, I guess if a friend were to be here, he could probably pretty easily describe me, but no fucking clue what I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, do you have anything that you're afraid of?
Hmm.
Or like what's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear is I guess being alone, right? Being lonely, but not lonely in the way of like not present with people, but loneliness in the sense of like not really like being part of anything. Does that make sense?
So like not really having any meaning or like any kind of connection with something.
Yeah, so like a meaningless existence where I eat, I shit, I sleep, I just do things over and over and over again, and that's it. That's the end of it. There's nothing else.
Yeah. What would you say like when it comes to like your biggest dreams, and what would you say like your biggest dream in your life? Like what is something that you really want to fulfill?
Hmm. I'd say I'd say my biggest dream would be a change in perspective, not only for me, but in a more of a global scale, in the sense of like there's a lot of things that I feel like they're a bit off from this world. And I feel like if that were to change, right, if we were to have a different mindset, a lot of interesting things could happen, and that would be, I think that'd be great. I guess introducing a bit of more of like entropy, introducing entropy, see what happens. I feel like that would be interesting.
Um, okay. So what would you say if, okay, this is just kind of a silly question, but I saw this
Okay.
recently and I think I'm gonna have other people ask this just like in general. Okay, if you were like a petty criminal and you could go into someone's house and steal something, but it couldn't be anything like super big. It had to be something that would just like minorly like inconvenience someone. So like just a very
Just to annoy
small,
someone.
yeah, just like their maybe like their toothbrush or something. Like what would you steal and why?
I would steal either the key to their car or their phone or just something people can't live with, you know? Just something that makes men twitch, you know, every time they go out of their house, they're like, oh shit, I left this, you know, something like that. I think that'd be interesting.
Have you ever had your keys or phone stolen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Really?
No, not stolen, but lost. So, I mean, when you told me that, I just thought of myself. What would be the thing that would make me the most mad? And it's that, definitely. Especially my phone. Like, there's a lot of stuff there that I wouldn't want to go missing, you know. So,
That's
and the
interesting.
keys, well, it's I hate like having to go to like a store so I can make new keys or whatever. And they always like overcharge. So, yeah, that's
I
something I
have
would
had
hate.
I've had both my keys and my phone actually stolen before.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I know from actual experience what that's like. I didn't just misplace it, I actually had them stolen. Um, my keys, I had them stolen by, and this isn't like for sure, but I'm like
Suspicious.
99 or not 99. Let's just say 95% certain. This was like I used to live in Seattle, Washington, and I had this one roommate and it feels like that like question was meant for her because that's just something that she just did in her regular life. It's just kind of like trying to find minor inconveniences for people. Um, and one of them was, and I would do this like not too often, but I did it enough where I would accidentally like leave my keys in the door, like our front door, which I understand why someone wouldn't want that. Like, of course, don't leave your keys in the front door, but it would typically be like, it wouldn't be like for a long time. And it would typically be like I would be in the living room and like right next to the front door or something. But this one time, not to really get in like too much into the story, but I'm pretty sure like I mean, if I told you the whole story, it would make more sense. But like, basically, my roommate probably stole my keys and like
Right.
either threw them away or hid them or something. And
Why?
so she was because I like left my keys in the door too often.
That's dumb.
Yeah. So she would do different things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had to have my extra key sent, like I could have bought like a new key. But yeah, they're expensive. Like I think for a car key, it's like $250 to replace it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had my stepmother mail my extra key from Georgia. So yeah. And
Hmm.
then as far as my phone, I had my phone stolen. I used to work at Starbucks and I guess I left it in the back or something. And there were like maintenance people that came in and we don't think it was really someone that like worked there with me, but we
Hmm.
think that like one of the maintenance people took my phone because the next day, and actually when I was leaving I realized I didn't have my phone, and then the next day my phone wasn't at Starbucks. So yeah, that
Yeah.
really sucked. So and I get it, it's like not a good feeling because you kind of, the keys were one thing. I'm lucky because my work was like I could walk to work from my house at the time. But like when it came to my phone, it's like you have everything on there. You have your credit card information, you have like everybody's phone number.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
I think I've okay, like this is gonna sound a bit dumb, but at the same time, I feel like it makes sense. So I think it's worse if you've lost something than got it stolen. But the reason why I think this is that if you know it's gotten stolen, well, mystery solved, it's stolen. But if you have no clue where the fuck it is, you're just gonna keep looking for it. Or even worse, like a mix of both, like in the sense that maybe someone stole it, or maybe you just lost it and you don't know. I feel like that's probably worst feeling ever.
Well, that was for both of those situations. That was
I guess,
the
yeah, I guess.
yeah, because I didn't like jump to conclusions. Like I realized when I got in the car, like at least with my phone, I'm like, okay, like automatically. And this is like so horrible, but I feel like people like, especially us, like younger millennials, Generation Z, we are like glued to our phones. So
It's true.
like I get in my car and I'm like, because I always connect my phone to Bluetooth and I will use it for like GPS or like Spotify, or like I'll even listen to YouTube when I'm driving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have my phone. Like I knew automatically when I got in there, and I like looked all over my car, and like I tried to get back into Starbucks, but everybody was like gone because like we closed and it was like at night. And I saw the maintenance people in there. So
Thinking
yeah.
face.
Yeah, and I was like trying to get their attention to get in, but whatever.
Yeah.
The other sad thing about it was like that phone wasn't even a year old. It was like maybe 6 months old or something. So I mean, which
Oh,
is like in phone world, I guess like they're making new phones, but it was an iPhone. Um,
yeah.
it was like in good condition too, but this is actually the phone I replaced it with. So
Yeah.
but and then with my keys, it wasn't like I jumped to conclusions right away that my roommate did that. I literally looked the through the entire house. I went back to every single place I had been that day, and she like made a comment like, "Oh, I bet someone took your keys in the door. You like probably left them in the door." And first of all,
Okay.
the way our driveway was, because we had like a house, our driveway was like very long. So they would have had to drive up, or maybe someone walked up, would have seen. And it's not like you would have seen that there were keys in the door. And there also was like a screen door in between the door. So they
Yeah.
would have had to open that screen door, which made noise, and take those keys out. And like I was with my friend because I had my friend come to try to help me look because he was with me when I like lost my keys, or like I didn't know I lost my keys. And he like we already like she already had done some shady things, and like she was like pretending to help us look or something, and she didn't
Yeah.
really look. And then I had to go somewhere, and like so I went with him and his truck. And as we were leaving, he said that he like looked back and my roommate was smiling.
What the
Like, and
fuck?
I was crying at this point. Like I was like
Damn.
so upset because I was frustrated. So yeah, I I totally get it.
That's fucking awful. I
It
hope
really
like I never
is.
run into, well, whatever. I probably run into similar people. I don't know, but God, that yeah, okay.
You have to be
Sorry.
careful
It's
who
making
you
me mad, and it's not even it's
I
not even
yeah,
me,
yeah.
the
I
one
mean,
that
I
happened.
was pretty upset about that. But I have other stories about that person. She actually wasn't my worst roommate that I've ever had. I've had like other roommate experiences that are worse
Oh
than her.
God.
But yeah, so like moral of the story, um, I met like the people I was roommates with in Seattle off of Facebook. You never know who you're gonna live
Yeah,
with. So,
yeah.
but apart from that, she really wasn't that bad. She was an ISFP, by the way, and my other roommate was an INTJ. So
Wow,
yeah.
we've run into a lot of ISFPs.
Kind I mean, my mom's an ISFP, and then like yeah, so I don't feel like I know that many ISFPs, but like yeah, I just find it interesting. So what would you say is the hardest point in your life, and how did you get over it?
What do you mean by point?
Like period of time in your life, like maybe something happened to you, and it was kind of like I don't know how to describe it. Um like, okay, there might have been like a period in time, like maybe a couple months, maybe a day, I don't know what period, maybe a year, years,
Yeah.
that you felt like it could have even been like an event that was really hard for you, and how did you get out of that? Like, how did you get out of that like headspace of being upset?
Well, okay, so I guess everyone, or a lot of people between the ages of like 13 or 15 felt pretty shitty, like just overall, because you're growing up or whatever, and like people are rude to you, right? And you're probably rude to other people as well, just everyone's doing shitty things to each other. um, Even people you think of your friends, they sometimes backstab you or whatever. So that's something that I hate, I hate a lot. But I wouldn't say that's probably the worst. I did get expelled from school like twice from two different schools, and
Oh
all of
my
them were
gosh.
yeah, all of them were pretty shitty. So I don't know. I guess like my life is like ups and downs constantly, but it's never too bad. It's just you can handle it, whatever, no big deal. But yeah,
um why did you get expelled from school?
okay. Well, I don't know if I should say this on YouTube. Okay, fuck it, I don't care. You guys don't even know my name, so whatever. Um, so first time was I went to a private school like when I was small. It was a very like a very I don't know. It was a British school, believe it or not. So people were really strict in the sense of like I don't know. I remember this time. No, so it was extremely competitive. So I remember this time where I was sent to the to the psychologist of the school because I was getting bad grades, which is like it's beyond me, like as if that ever like made sense. It didn't make any sense. I've always gotten bad grades. It's not a big deal. Um, I got expelled from that school because I got into fights and I was generally difficult to handle. And as for the second school, and this was when I was like 17, so I don't know I don't know in the US what's that. It's like so it would be not the last day year of school, but the one before that. Is it junior?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's junior. Yeah, I got expelled in junior because okay, this one's the worst. I was selling alcohol to kids, and yeah,
Oh
well,
my
not kids, people
gosh.
my age, but yeah, I was just like, whatever, I can make money out of this, so no big deal. And of course, I got caught, but
What is the drinking age in Spain?
18, we were
Oh,
16. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And that's
that's
it.
pretty bad.
I mean, it's sort of like okay, like you cannot serve it, but it's still like I don't know. I had friends there, and it was yeah, it was bad.
I mean, but it could have been for worse things. I feel like a lot of people that I knew that got expelled in school, like they had to do some really majorly bad stuff.
Oh,
Like,
and I did drink at school sometimes, but I never caught up for that. I got caught for selling it, but yeah,
oh, you really were like a little rebel.
I
Um,
guess
yeah, I didn't drink alcohol until after the age of 21, really.
21. Oh yeah, because
Because the
yeah,
drinking age
yeah.
is 21. The first time I actually like had alcohol, I was in China at the age of 20, almost like less than a month from me turning 21, and the drinking age in China is 20. And like that was the first time I actually like had alcohol apart from like going to church at, like, because I'm
Oh
Catholic, so I would have like a little tiny bit of wine.
yeah,
But
I am also Catholic.
yeah, which I feel like a lot of people
I
in
thought it was
Spain.
funny because like I don't know, it was just like oh you're getting drunk, but it's just like a bit, it's not a
Yeah,
big
it's a
deal.
tiny little bit. But yeah, so that was, I mean, apart from maybe like trying a little bit of like my parents' drinks and stuff, like very small amounts, I never drank. And then like for the longest while, even on my 21st birthday, my mom like, so I got like a free drink at a bar. Um, and I like didn't want to drink it because I'm like, I don't want to drink, mom. And still to this day, like I drink occasionally, but it's like once every few months or something. Very
Yeah.
like very little, but yeah, that's funny. That's really funny. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like people will be able to figure out, I mean, kind of think of different things even off of that. So, what personalities, and I know that like a lot of, it sounds like a lot of like your typology journey does have to do with like Queen's Gambit system, which again, it's like it's kind of hard, like a hard basis to start off of because it's not really like
A system.
it's not necessarily compatible. Like it is a system, but it's still like a very like in its infancy. Um, and so it's not necessarily comparable to like, so it's hard for me to be like, oh, what personality types do you not get along with? Because I don't even know if those people would be
Well, I mean, I do know the traditional one, so
okay.
yeah.
So what types do you feel like you don't get along with the most?
I don't get along with. Hmm. I'd say I don't really get along. I like everyone. It's just ESTPs in general or ISTPs. Not a big fan, to be honest. Um, I guess
Doesn't
STPs.
Queen's Gambit type as ISTP?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
But well, it's weird. He every few days he changes from INFJ to ISTP, so we're never really too sure.
Oh my gosh.
Um, but yeah, I think most people is most people think it's ISTP. So yeah, I don't like STPs. My brother's an STP. I don't like him. Well, I mean, he's my brother, but like that's it, you know. I wouldn't like him if he were not to be my brother. Yeah, I can be honest about
So
that at least. Yeah, STP.
that kind of points me in the direction that you might actually, at least in socionics terms and like Myers-Briggs, you might be more in the Delta Quadra. Like that kind of also, because typically the people that you hate the most are going to be in your opposing quadra.
Really?
Yeah.
So, huh? So it's like the opposite of C.S. Joseph's system, I guess, where the opposing is your. I don't know how he called it. He called it like, oh yeah, golden pair.
So what is he called like the golden pair?
So the golden pair would be the opposite of your functions. So if you're an, I don't know, if you're an ESTP, your golden pair would be ISTJ, or if you're an ESFP, your golden pair would be ISFJ, or ENTP, INTJ, INTP, ENTJ, INFJ,
Oh
ENFP.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, just to like, okay, I don't think that it is kind of a meme. So
Yeah, not a lot.
God,
I'm not. It feels like not a lot of people like him. So
it's not even that. So it's just like I don't watch his content. Actually, he reached out to me a while back, like in July, because there was a point that I wanted to interview him like 2 years ago. And I remember asking him that, and he didn't want to because I feel like he thinks that, which I understand. I think a lot of people do this where they try to like trap him in a way and like try to like be like, oh, you're mistyped and you're
well,
like,
I mean, he's the big guy. You know, everyone's out for him. It makes sense, like from a
well,
YouTube perspective. And probably a lot of people disagree and think he's like.
I don't even know like how big he is now, but like back in the day, it wasn't like he was that big. Um, um, like there are definitely people that were bigger than him. It was more of the fact that like a lot of people had issues with him, and he promotes himself as a social engineer, which I asked him about that, and he said, because I was like, why do you say you're a social engineer? And he said, look up the definition. And I just like wanted him to clarify that. But social engineers are basically people that try to manipulate other people. And so for me, that's not really something that
You like?
I feel like is a good thing to promote, or like something to do with socionics. Or not socionics, like personality theory in general. There is such a thing as like what he's describing as the golden pair, but that would be considered like so it's like your same functions but reversed. So yeah. I would actually say that those people, I think that's kind of flawed, because in like socionics, that would be a relation that like for me, so like if I'm an INFJ and Myers-Briggs, that would be like an ENFp, which I get along really well with ENFPs, but at the very same time, I don't think that they're really the best match, because there's a lot of, in socionics, it's considered extinguishment, which basically the way that your functions lie. So you're basically valuing the completely opposite functions.
Yeah.
In long-term relationships or friendships, there's just going to be a lot of disagreements there.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah, on the surface, you may seem like you get along really well. And I think it's one of the better relationships, but I wouldn't say it's the best by far. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like, in your opposing quadra, it would really be, so for me, my least favorite personality type is an ESTJ. And that
I don't
is
like
like,
them either.
that's like my exact opposite personality. So
Is
it's like,
it?
yes. So that,
ESTJ.
yeah. So like I'm an IEI and Socionics, which is in the beta quadra. ESTJs are LSEs, which is ESTJ. And they're in the delta quadra. So their functions are going to be, so they're going to be the opposite of me, but also they're going to be like the negative opposite. Whereas like an ESTP, which I get along super well with ESTPs, though those are considered my dual, or like my perfect type. The type that I would get along with, like not necessarily the most, but that is the most ideal pair in socionics cognitively, because they value your, like the functions, so your primary function and your creative function. So like NIFE, they value those, and they have what you're looking for, which is going to be in Myers-Briggs, if you think about like TISE. So, and they don't value TE and SI. And they also are not good at, and they don't value FI and what's it called?
T.
Or FI and NE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting in that regard, but not necessarily the case. Like you could just hate someone that's completely different, but a good way of kind of determining what your personality type is, think about your personality. I mean, think about the people that you hate the most, and you might be the opposite of that person, or the people that you get along with the least. You're
Well,
at
that's the
least,
thing. So, wait, I'll have to think this one out. Okay. So I would say the person I hate the most is this ESFP. So I don't know. Yeah, probably ESFP. I
so
don't know. I hate a lot of people, so it's difficult to pick.
yeah, and that would, I mean, so, and again, it's not like completely like the way with everything. But it's funny because I don't know, I do see a lot, I will say this, and I know I've said this from the very beginning, there are like actually some scarily similar correlations with you and my sister. Like I feel like you and my sister, I don't know, like it's almost making me think, okay, I do think that my sister is an SLI and socionics. And like when we really went over the type relations and everything, and even like the definitions like of socionics, because the way it's presented in Myers-Briggs, like an ISTJ, I feel like a lot of people don't really relate with that. But she also, like her mortal enemy, and this isn't her opposite personality, but like her mortal enemy, the person she despises the most in this world, or at least is up there, is an ESFP. And
Interesting.
he was actually like my ex-boyfriend. And and he wasn't a bad guy. He actually was super sweet, but she just had some really like not so great interactions where like one time he accidentally like broke her purse, and he just had a very obnoxious personality. Like he was just very obnoxious, and she just really didn't like him. Um so I find that interesting. And she originally typed as an INTP. And like for
Huh.
the, and even for a time, I even thought maybe she was an ISFP, because I felt like she did have a lot of gamma values as well. So I just find it, my sister's
Yeah.
also like a good amount older than you. She's 25. So there's definitely, like I said, at your age, you're still kind of developing into like who you will be. So I just find it kind of, it's just really interesting to see. And I'm pretty certain about my sister's personality type. Like I would say, um, and maybe even, so like my sister, some people even see her as like an ENFP at some points. Like she can be seen as like, she is very creative as well. Um, and she's very much, she kind of just does her own thing. Like she doesn't really care what other people think. And then when, I don't know if you're like this, so like if you are going to go after something, like how do you approach it? Like if you really want to do something, what do you do?
So you're asking me when I want something, how do I get it? Or
Yeah.
okay. Well, it depends, right? It really depends on like what's the obstacle, right? Um, so I would imagine that if I want something, I would either try to make someone extremely uncomfortable, or I would just outright tell them, So yeah, that'd be it. I think, I don't know.
So what if it was something like not necessarily to do with like other people?
Oh, okay.
So like just a goal, like say you, I don't know. So you're living in Spain, like is there anywhere else that you want to live?
I guess Ireland, or I've lived before in the US as well, and I also liked it. So both of those two countries would probably fit. Um, if I wanted to move to the US or Ireland, how would I do it? Um, well, I guess I guess first of all, I would have to know what the fuck am I gonna do there, right? I'm not gonna just straight right jump into something and then like deeply regret it. So I have to first figure out like what's the whole point, yeah, right? Like why am I doing this? So once I got that out of the way, I just I guess okay, so I guess expenses are a thing, right? Also the whole logistics of it, and also like I assume I need a job there, or I might just like starve to death. So that's something I would also have to figure out. Um, yeah, I would just plan it. I'm not a great planner. I actually suck at planning things, but like I don't know, that seems like a pretty big important stuff. So I would definitely have to have something in mind before doing it.
What do you think, like, okay, have you ever wanted something really badly? And again, it's not necessarily something to do with other people, and like something that you were successful in getting, that you wanted really badly. How did you approach that?
Um, hmm. I would say I'd say so. So there was this time where, and this is gonna sound stupid, but it's it's a game, right? I was playing with people, and I just wanted to beat them like really badly. So I just started looking up, how do I get better at this? And I did. I just looked it up, and I trained for it. It's a strategy game, so there's a lot of like minor details you have to get into. There's always different strategies that you can employ to achieve the same objectives. But in this game, I was playing as a, well, it's a game about a, it's a strategy game like a, I don't know, like a, of countries or whatever. So I was playing as a minor nation, and he was playing as a bigger one, and I just wanted to beat him so badly. So I just looked it up, like how do I beat him, even though I'm smaller, and I just did it. And I don't know, it was deeply satisfying for some reason.
What was the game called?
Oh, Victoria 2.
Okay, so it's like a video game.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've played it. So it's similar to Hearts of Iron or Europe Universalis 4, or I guess if you don't know neither of those titles, you could say Risk. But
Yeah,
that's like, yeah.
because it kind of sounded like Risk a little bit to me at first, but um that's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's
So you
it's a
like
more
those kind of strategy games
yeah.
and you're good at games?
Am I good? No, I'm not. Well, I mean, it depends on the game, right? I suck at shooters, for example. Like I'm just bad at them. But like all of these like all of these worksheet games, where you have to like min max, and you have to like look at like the most efficient way of doing something. I enjoy those because it's sort of like a challenge. I feel like games are made for dumb people, but when they make it difficult, it's more entertaining, I guess.
I wouldn't say that it's made for dumb people. No, I do
Okay,
think
me.
that there's different types of games. Like I think that there's definitely like games that maybe require a certain type of skill, like shooter games. Like, yeah, I think you have to have like a certain skill with that, but it doesn't necessarily, like, I think is strategy involved, but it's really like about like repetition and like kind of getting to know. I feel like that just takes a lot of practice. Whereas things like, do you play any board games at all?
Yeah, I guess.
What are your favorite board games?
So there's this one called Bang, which is it's about sheriffs, and like it's like, so there's a criminal, and then there's a sheriff, and then there's different roles. I believe there's a pretty similar game called like Village or something,
Oh, are you
and the
talking about
werewolf
like
stuff.
werewolf and like mafia and stuff?
Yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah,
you
yeah.
like you, I mean, I guess you don't have to do this, but like a lot of times those games are like played in a circle, like if they're played in
Yes,
person, and
yes,
then you're
yes.
given a card and you have to kind of figure out who the person
Yeah.
is.
So there's like the seer, there's the werewolf, there's the whatever, and everyone plays a role, and everyone has an objective, and you have to outsmart people to, win or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I it's just it's very bizarre how similar you are to my sister. Like it is very weird actually, because those are like, I like those games as well, but that's like, for example, we've never played that game, but we've played like Mafia and Werewolf, and she's very good at it. She's very good at lying. I don't know about you, but she's like very good at deceiving people.
I wouldn't say I'm good at lying. I'm good at convincing people.
Yeah. Well, not like when it comes to like real life situations. Like she's not like a someone that lies, but she's very good
Yeah.
at like. So I don't know. Have you ever played like Settlers of Catan?
Yeah.
Okay. And what would be your strategy in that game?
So I would say the most reliable strategy is probably, instead of like expanding, you should probably get first the wood and the, I don't know what it's called in English, like the clay thing, right?
Mhm.
So wood and clay, they make houses. Not only do they make houses, they make roads. So you ideally want to get that first, and once you have that out of the way, you're gonna want to expand that so you can produce twice as much every time you roll. And once you get that, it's just easier. You just get nearby a trading route that has like some resource that you're gaining a lot, and you can exchange it for other thing, and then you can build more stuff. And maybe by the end of the game, you can also get like the biggest road, and that gives you points. And yeah, I'd say that would be.
So when you're trading with someone in that game, like how do you approach it?
I
Like
don't
if
like
it
trading.
you don't
I
like
don't like.
trading?
Yeah, it gives me. I don't know. Um, I'll want to trade, but only with the people that are losing, of course. But like, there's no way I'm trading with someone who's beating me.
Oh,
That
of
just gives them
course
more of
you
an edge.
wouldn't. My sister, this is her in this game. It's just so, and I wouldn't even like, I mean, maybe it is personality related, but it's just really interesting because she just has a very similar approach to life and the way she like goes about things. Even like with that game. So for example, she wouldn't trade with me, like because typically like I'm doing pretty well in the game. But she would trade with people that were like new to the game that didn't really know how to play and like make it seem like it's like this advantageous trade for them, but it's really just helping her and it's not even really helping the other person. And she would just like pawn it off as like, oh, you really want to do this trade with me? And then I would be like, don't trade with her. She's trying to like manipulate you. And she would like pretend like she's like this really like sweet person in the game, and then I would be seen as the bad guy because I'm like the one that's like, don't trust her. Does that ring a bell at
I
all?
yeah.
That's funny. um that's really interesting. Okay, so again, I don't we're actually, wow, we're past the hour mark. But okay, kind of wrapping up the interview, which I mean, I feel like there's just like a lot more that we could talk about, but I want to be cognizant of both of our times. Um, so I'm probably not going to title it like, oh, this is his type or something. I'm probably going to type it as like, or not type it as, write it as like, kind of like what's my type or something like that. So, what are some things that people can take from this interview? Because I feel like people might already have like different things in mind, but what are some kind of closing thoughts or closing things about you that you want to kind of share with people?
I don't get the question.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, so for example, I'm not gonna have like, okay, he's for sure like this personality type. I
Oh,
feel
I
like
sort
if
of wanted you to say it, but
uh
you can tell me later. You can tell me later what you think,
yeah,
but
I mean, definitely, but I really do think because it's just, and I very well could change it later, but I mean, what would be really funny is if I was like ENFJ, which I do not think you're an ENFJ. And then people are like, he's not an
what?
ENFJ. What are you talking about? But okay, what are some like kind of final things? Because we really do want people's input on, especially on this video. Like, what are some things that you really want people to like,
Okay.
maybe follow up questions or whatever?
Um. Yeah. So So this is a typing system, and I feel like people take it very personal, their type. I won't say names, but I feel like there's a lot of people mistyped, and they're really defensive about it, and I think it's silly, right? I mean, I've been typed every type under the earth, and honestly, I don't care. So honestly, it's more about like the experience itself of knowing oneself, and once you know oneself, it's, I don't know, it can become sort of addictive as well, right? Especially if you're somewhat narcissistic, just finding out about yourself, yeah, right? So that's why people like it, you know, they like they like feeling connected, or like feeling like somewhat relatable to other people. So this is how people base off their community. But I feel like there's a lot of people that are just wrong about their type, and it's probably more of a pride thing than anything. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree to a certain extent. But I think there are a lot of people, like for example, myself, like I don't care. Like if someone said, okay, you're definitely mistyped. Like for example, if Queen's Gambit came at me and was like, you're an INTJ. Um, but he was using like Socionics or Myers-Briggs, then I would be like, yeah, like let me hear your argument. But I mean, maybe I am an INTJ in his system, for example.
Oh yeah, totally.
You
You
know,
could
stuff
easily
like
be
that.
one. What
Yeah,
I'm saying
but
is that
yeah.
you shouldn't attach your personality to your type. There's different typing systems, and you can definitely defend a posture that is relating to that system, right? I mean, you can be totally wrong about something within that system.
So
But when someone tells you something out of a different system, or maybe from a different perspective, it's fine. Like it's
yeah,
not a big deal. You
no,
can be
I
both types at the same time, depending on the system.
and I agree with you. And I think that people are very attached to their type, but at least for me, and I think a lot of people that are like watching this interview, it's not necessarily that. Like if I even in like Myers-Briggs or Socionics, if I felt like, okay, for sure, I mistyped, like, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall, I would go with that. I'm not very connected to like being an INFJ. I've also been mistyped in the past. I've been on this journey for a long time. Um, but the thing is, for me, the reason why I like Myers-Briggs and Socionics, again, Myers-Briggs is really just like the gateway. It's like the bridge. Is because of not necessarily myself, but like relating with the world. So I really value the type relations in socionics because they're really a good way to kind of understand dynamics and how to relate with other people, and also how to, like, if you do know someone's personality type in socionics, you're kind of able to navigate social situations in a way that, like, I feel like builds community and also brings out the best parts of someone's personality. So, for example, whenever I have children, like, I don't ever want to be the mother that's like trying to force a child to
Type.
be a certain way. Like, you know, they may be a completely different personality. I may have an ESTJ child. Um, but I'm still gonna love them. Like there are ESTJs that I like, but like that being said, I want to be able to help them in such a way. And I would say yes, there are different systems, but the main ones are obviously Myers-Briggs and Socionics. Like those are the largest systems out there.
Socionics is better than the rest of the systems. Not just kidding.
Well, I do think so, but and a lot of the other ones have kind of taken where Socionics gone. Like, for example, like Dave's Superpowers has taken a lot from Socionics. It sounds like, um, what's his name? C.S. Joseph in his weird, convoluted way. The thing I do like about Queen's Gambit is he is trying to do something different. And I know that he is taking stuff, but at least he's trying to do something. I feel like he
He's a
has,
creative force. He doesn't,
yeah,
yeah.
I just think he needs to market it differently, I guess. That's the biggest thing. And then like CS Joseph, not to be like mean to CS Joseph, but and I would totally love to interview him and get his perspective, but it's not really even his typing system or the things that he talks about. It's the fact that it really feels like he's in it for like, and I can't speculate on this, but just from seeing, because I've seen like what he charges for his systems and like
That's scumbag. Ah, fuck, I hate that.
it
He's
just
charging
seems,
$1,000. 1
yeah,
hour, 1,000. Are you kidding me?
yeah, and
God damn
it
it.
to me it's really sad because I feel like there are people out there that obviously, I mean, so in the US we're getting all like a 1400 stimulus, everybody basically in the US. So it's like what would be so
Oh,
sucky
I'm
is
getting
if
a
there's,
typing out of C.S. Joseph with
if
my
someone
kilo chest.
if someone's going to like buy their use their stimulus money to buy his program, and I guess to each their own. I just don't understand it. Maybe there are people that really get value from it, but I just don't like the idea that he like goes off of like social manipulation and trying to like manipulate people. So I just don't even like mess around. And then Dave's superpowers, he has like his own system. He is trying to do something different. The primary ones that they all have kind of branched off of, it's kind of like Catholicism with like the Lutheran, like Martin Luther coming in and being like, no,
Yeah.
let's change it. So like it started out with, I would say Myers-Briggs is, I mean, Socionics is a lot closer to like Jungian stuff, like as far as the core people, the
Well, the
core.
oldest would definitely be Carl Jung, psychological
Yeah,
types, and then I don't know. I
but
assume socionics.
he didn't really have a typing system.
Oh no, he didn't. But he
Yeah,
just defined the functions, right?
yes,
That's
and
his main thing.
I have his book as well. So like obviously he's the father of it. So you can kind of see Carl Jung as God. And like if we're gonna relate this to like
Okay.
Christianity, and I guess Myers-Briggs would technically be the first one, but it really didn't base off of like functions and stuff. And there are functions, and I don't know. So it's kind of like hand in hand socionics, or like the like whatever. It was almost like God had twins. One was the devil and one was Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. No, I'm just kidding. But I do have a place in my heart for Myers-Briggs, and I think it is cool that like people are trying to explore. But needless to say, the people that are watching this primarily do know like Myers-Briggs and Socionics. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what their input is. But
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, well, is there anything you want people to follow on social media or any kind of accounts you want people to
No
link to?
thanks.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, thank you again for doing this interview, and thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
Bye.